Welcome back to Don't Mess with the Mommas, the place where we like to think wisdom meets wit and truth shows up wearing house shoes. I'm Johnnie Mitchell and I'm here with Arlena Black. And today we are asking a question that sounds simple but isn't. What is a grown up? Now, you'd think by a certain age we'd all have figured that out. We pay bills, raise kids, fix what breaks, and try to keep the refrigerator stocked. But is that what makes us grown? Or is being grown something deeper, something the world can't measure by age, titles, or taxes? Maybe being grown up isn't about having all the answers, but about knowing how to live with the questions. Maybe it's about learning to take responsibility, not just for others, but for our own healing, our words, our reactions, and our dreams that never quite went away. So today, remembering our motto, you are the protagonist, not the victim of your life. Today, we are unpacking what it really means to be grown. What is a grown-up? When did you realize you were one? Did it come with a birthday or a heartbreak? And what does maturity look like in a world that's still learning how to act right? So grab your tea, coffee, or something stronger, because this conversation might stir up a little laughter, a little reflection, and a lot of truth. Let's get into it. Elena, what does it mean to be grown up to you?
First, I'm riveted by your introduction. I just want to hear that again and again. That sounded like a movie beginning, you know. It was wonderful. So, Johnnie, wow, I loved what you had to say. So today we're going to be talking about different areas of grown-upness. And frankly, I tell everybody, you know, even though in age I look in the mirror and I say, really? But inside I still feel like I'm 12, you know, in so many ways. I think we're always growing up. We're never grown up. But today we're going to be talking about different topics, and I know, Johnnie, you'll be sharing several, and I will as well. So when we studied this, we found that grown up means having a harmonious family, which, of course, is not the easiest thing to do, probably the most challenging of all. Taking responsibility. Wow, that's a biggie. Johnnie will be sharing that. I'll be talking about harmonious family. Having self-control, really. Having just finished a course in Wagovi and saying I can't do this anymore. Self-control is a real biggie as well. I'll be talking about that. And emotional regulation and resilience. Johnnie is going to be talking about making rational decisions and having a sense of openness. And finally, she'll also share what it means to be both independent and interdependent. So, Johnnie, I know you're going to be talking about several of these. Why don't you just take it away?
Thank you, Elena. Taking responsibility. Owning up to our actions, words, and energy. That's what taking responsibility, everything that you have done, owning up to it. And I have always told my kids when they were growing up, especially during the teenage years when they think they know everything and do everything perfectly, I would tell them, you'll know you're grown up when you know that you don't know everything.
Right.
And so secondly, rational decision making, making peace with our past and not blaming it on others. Whenever you probably approach a child and ask the child, did they do something? It's always pointing a finger at somebody else. It's never them. So when you are grown, you are making rational decisions and taking, again, responsibility for it. Independence. I like that one because I feel that it coincides with our motto, you are the protagonist. So if things happen, there's always a way of putting blame or responsibility on others, on the environment or the situation. But independence means that you are standing up and saying, whatever happens or how it happens, I am independent now. I'm not a part of sharing the blame or the responsibility. And interdependence, the fact that we know that our independence stops where someone else's independence starts. So it's realizing that we are in a society where there is interdependence, respecting other people's independence and relying on others as the situation might come up. And so it's openness about not being totally isolated or everything. It's you, my. It's others, caring and sharing. Now, what about you with the ones that you're going to discuss?
Yes, and thank you so much, Johnny, because, really taking responsibility is the most difficult, and not pointing fingers, as you said, but really being the protagonist. That's part of the growth process and the growing up process for sure. So creating a harmonious family, again, the most difficult and challenging because, if you think of relationships, so what is the most difficult is our relationships, especially when you're talking about your own family. But the ideal family, to create the ideal harmony in a family, is having effective communication, to be able to openly and honestly and respectfully, especially respectfully, dialogue where family members can feel comfortable expressing their thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment. And I know one of my friends in particular has 2 teenage boys, and they schedule family meetings. And Johnnie is smiling because she knows exactly who I'm talking about. And that's so important, to be able to schedule that. And of course, the boys are constantly on their phones, as is, and I'm constantly telling my husband, get off your phone, because he picks up his phone when there's a pause in anything. So effective dialogue and communication is so key. And that could be very, very difficult, especially if you're raised in an environment where people tend to be very closed about their feelings and emotions. But remember, it just takes one person in the family saying, hey, can we try this or can we try that? One person can make all the difference in the world. Also, providing mutual support for each other. It's difficult, especially young people. It's difficult growing up these days. So for grown-ups to actually have enough kind of wisdom to be able to provide a sense of security and belongings. Now, if the adults in the family have not had that experience growing up, that might be really challenging. So it's a constant work in progress. And respect for the individual. Your child is not necessarily going to be who you think that child should be, and I know I'm really guilty of that, but appreciating everything about them. If they wake up 5 minutes earlier in the day, appreciate that, to get ready for work or school. Appreciate that. Appreciate the small victories. And also trust and have empathy. That's so important. So the other thing I want to talk about is self-control. And I know that I've been negligent in that area, especially because even though I have so many food allergies, I've been a food lover, and I just react all the time. I'm just constantly sick from food, but I love food. But self-control is not, just about that. But it's having more control of your impulses. And that's, of course, a biggie. So it turns out that the brain, interestingly enough, is not really fully developed until age 25. But we're also always developing ourselves in so many different ways. But self-control helps people make thoughtful decisions rather than just acting on impulsive desires. And it leads to better choices in areas like finances, education, and relationships. And we know people struggle with that because I have two friends, and they both are part of, what is that called? Finances Anonymous or something, where they, Debtors Anonymous rather, where they have to constantly control their desires to just spend, and not have enough left over for whatever they really need it for. And then when you have more self-control, you have better and healthier bodies and slower aging. It doesn't seem that that would be directly related, but of course you're taking better care of yourself. And you have more, of course, financial stability. Resilience. What is resilience? Everybody, as we've been discussing, and as Sarah in our previous episode talked about, being young, old, any age, we're all going to encounter challenges and difficulties. How do we adapt to those? Do we give up? Are we defeated and deflated? Or do we use it as an opportunity to really stretch our lives? We always use the adage, you add logs to a fire to help the fire roar. So those logs are the difficulties you have. Without them, life would be so boring and dull, and you would never develop your life. So really, when you have adversity, that's when you can grow the most. So choosing to bounce back. If you get down, you've heard this adage many times, if you're beaten down 3 times, get up the 4th, or however many times. And then when you're resilient, then you have better mental well-being, you have a lower rate of depression, and more positive physical outcome. So I think that that's what I really wanted to share about this. But which one of these do you think are the most important, Johnnie? Which one did you like finding out the most about, or thinking about, or studying?
I'm thinking when I was talking about the parts that I was trying to explain, it seems like everything always went back to responsibility.
Yes.
So self-control, as you said, harmonious family. When you think of grown up, I guess the other side of that would be childlike
Yes.
or not grown up. And so the reverse of those, and we know from examples with children, they don't always make the best decision. For example, you spoke about finances, and so you might give them an allowance and they spend all of their money on one thing and then come up short with other things that they might need. And we see that being grown up age-wise doesn't mean that we've all won over that characteristic of an
Absolutely.
adult or grown up. And so all of these seem to fall on a responsibility. And I go back again. It's always when you're dealing with somebody who you feel is not a grown up, it's whatever it is, it's never their responsibility. Somehow it's always about finding some reason or so and so, and I'm thinking about parenting. It's always the thing they'll say. As a parent, you're like, why did you do that? Well, so and so was going to do it, or so and so said it was a good thing to do. And I think we can all relate to it. It's always, so if Jimmy jumps off the pier, you're going to jump
Yes.
as well. And so it's when you become a grown up or a real adult that you are able to make decisions, rational decisions for yourself. And it's like, well, you can go ahead and do that, but I'm not. And hopefully give reasons why to persuade or dissuade somebody else from doing something bad. So, this, as we're getting into this, it's really getting to me about being grown up. I'm not sure what I am.
I think all of us, so that's why I think the word grown up is a misnomer, because I think we have to call it growing up, because we're constantly growing up. And to me, what you were talking about is so important. It's that idea, the bandwagon approach, where, somebody does it and everybody has to do it. And sorry to say, but the whole idea of having to need influencers in these days, that people need somebody to tell them, give them advice on what to wear, it's just really showing that people really lack a sense of strong identity. And I think that is so central to being a grown-up, is having a strong sense of identity where you can make choices. You don't have to rely on somebody else or follow somebody else. That's really super duper important, and that's something we need to change as a society. I think when you look at America, we're not grown up at all in so many ways. We're very immature, because it's like following the leader or not really being able to view things from your own perspective and sense of worth and self-respect. So yeah, I think it's all about the continuous growing up, and not to be harsh on ourselves either. If we lack impulse control, everybody lacks impulse control in some way. So to really say, okay, but this is something I have to work on. I think to see things as a work in progress is part of being a grown-up, because you're looking at yourself rationally, as you were using that term. You're being able to judge yourself in a rational and not an emotional way, and beat yourself up, and et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yes, thank for adding those things. And I was just thinking, it's not something that you reach and then you stay there.
right.
It's always, you go back a little bit. I know last week I had a moment of something. I can't even really remember exactly what it is right now. But I was like, oh my goodness, I have really arrived at being a grown person thinking about this particular thing, because I all my life I hadn't been able to control it or do whatever it was. It was like, wow. So that's such a great point you brought up. It's a continuous, and it's not stagnant. You don't get there and then stay there. It's always moving. And in our practice, I'm thinking also about what we believe, that our society is a reflection of us.
Yes.
And so that means that this is an area that we really need to take serious and concentrate and put some effort into, if we want our society to be all grown up and matured and making good decisions and being responsible. We need to change ourselves so that our environment will reflect
Absolutely.
inside.
Absolutely. I love what you say. Absolutely. That we have to we are the protagonists. If we want to see a change in the destiny of a single individual, can affect a change in a family, a community, and ultimately all humankind. It takes one person growing up, one person deciding to be a true grown up. And in that, I have some sad and some happy news for our listeners. Johnnie, as our mama, is taking a little step away for now, because she's going to be pursuing some additional projects of her own. And we have a new mama who is going to join us, yay, who is going to join us in our very next episode. And her name is Carla Brown, and you'll find out so much more about her. So Johnnie and I, of course, will remain friends throughout, sisters throughout, and we will be together in so many different ways. But for now, she's gotten her life very, very busy, and she's doing some additional projects. So this will be her last episode for a little while. So let me turn it back to Johnnie to finish up with our key points and encouraging words, and then I'll sign us off.
Thank you so much, Elena. It's been wonderful. I've grown a lot. And hopefully I will take this time to grow even more and come back to be able to share even more. And so I will end with the key points from this episode. We might find that grown up is different for everyone. Set your goals, and the goals eventually should always be peace and happiness for ourselves and others. Make a plan, and when you know that you don't know everything, you might be growing really well. And the last point I think that Elena kept emphasizing is keep growing. And so I will end with encouraging words for today. This lifetime will never come again. It is precious and irreplaceable. To live without regret, we must have a concrete purpose, continually setting goals and challenges for ourselves. And we need to keep moving toward those specific targets steadily and tenaciously, one step at a time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johnnie. And I'm not going to cry because I'm not wearing waterproof mascara. But again, I'm going to see you every so many days anyway. But don't forget, we are Don't Mess with the Mommas, MOMMAS, with our theme and goal that we are all protagonists of our destiny, not the victim of our destiny. You can just Google us. Make sure you spell Mommas, MOMMAS, and we are on all platforms these days, even YouTube, yay. And we can be found at mommas, mommas.podcast@gmail.com. Thank you, our beloved listeners. We would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for listening. And we hope you found today encouraging. Bye-bye. Thank you again. And bye-bye. And eternal hugs.